still a running back one? Is Austin Eckler way too low? Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? And what's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey? Can he be the RB1 again? We're going to talk about all that today. Welcome into the Dynasty Mafia podcast. I am Antonio Denisi. With me, as always, Keenan Jimajich and Eric Denisi. And guess what, guys? We are 2 weeks away from football. We are 2 Sundays away from football. And I couldn't be happier right now. What's going on?
You know, I just want to applaud you. You switched up the opening. I love it. I like it. Not much. I'm excited. I saw, our Bills kick off in 17 days, and I jumped out of bed with a smile on my face today. I'm ready to watch some football.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the season to start. It doesn't feel this close, so I don't know. It seems like time's flying with everything, with the whole quarantine and everything, but it still feels like football's so far away for some reason. I don't know.
Well, I haven't had a draft yet. I'm in I think 7 redraft leagues, and I haven't done one yet. And there's also no preseason football, so it doesn't feel like we're in September yet.
Yeah.
No, you guys aren't wrong. It really doesn't. I mean, I'm usually itching to draft by this time. Actually, by probably a month ago, I'm ready to be drafting, and I'm doing mocks in like May. And yeah, this offseason was certainly different, but my excitement is here now. It's up there. My kinetic energy, it's only going higher and higher. So let's get talking right now, because we got a bunch here. But first, when I say let's get talking, I don't want to talk football. I had a week this week when it comes to the fast food industry. And here in Buffalo, we didn't have Popeyes or Chick-fil-A around here for a while. So we got them both within the last couple of years. I tried Popeyes the other day, and I just tried Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A has just been the talk of the town. It's always got a line. And I got to be honest, I think I liked Popeyes better. Is that an unpopular opinion?
I'll let Big E take this one.
I don't know if it's necessarily unpopular. I mean, it's a new sandwich though. So I tried it today. It was absolutely delicious. I just like the Chick-fil-A sauce that's on it.
For me, I had both, obviously. And when I saw that, there's people standing outside camping out when Chick-fil-A decided to open a restaurant here in Buffalo, I was like, what is going on? I got to try this. And I went and tried it. I mean, it was just a chicken sandwich, or it wasn't anything special to me. Same thing with Popeyes. We know what I'm more excited about than their chicken sandwiches, Antonio. I'm excited that the hot and spicy is back at McDonald's. Here in Buffalo, we got the McCain bag. You get the McDouble. You put the McDouble in between the hot and spicy sandwich, and you put some sweet and sour sauce on top, and you're taking a nap 20 minutes after.
Yeah, your life will be changed forever if you have never done that before. You have to do that, and it's been a long time since we've had the ability to do it again. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Popeyes, I was like 4th in line, so that was kind of cool. And Chick-fil-A, I was about 35th in line. But they cranked everybody out. I'll be honest, that was efficient. They had people on one section who were taking your order with tablets. The next section just confirming your order and telling you who to follow. Third one, they bring your food out, and I was like, all right, have a great day. 20 minutes? Okay,
that was the one thing about Chick-fil-A, though. I never go there, and we went there, and the guy was just standing there with a tablet and stared at us, and I'm like, is there a menu? He's like, oh, you want to see menu? I'm like, yeah. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't like the new situations like that. I'll have to talk about my Delta Sonic experience, like a local car wash company one of these days, but that's definitely for another time.
You're talking about how efficient they are. I'm hoping you had an efficient toilet after you ate all that fast food.
Well, I definitely had to get my fair samplings. But yeah, what goes in must come out, they say. So let's talk football now. Let's talk football. Let's move on to football. Yeah. Fans, sounds like a few teams, actually a good amount of teams are looking to have fans in the first couple weeks. Other teams still hopeful that they're going to be able to have fans this season. And then, like we talked last episode, this offseason is bringing some injuries, so it's unfortunate, but to update on the Mike Williams injury, he's week to week with a shoulder sprain. He is questionable for the opener. That certainly bumps Keenan Allen up a little bit for our redraft leagues. Actually, probably a lot of bit if he's going to see some targets, especially heavily concentrated targets in the first month. Tyrell Williams over in Oakland has a torn labrum in his shoulder. He's going to try to play through it, but that could be an opportunity for Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, Darren Waller to be getting a lot of those targets there, or finally Josh Jacobs getting the ball. Darrell Henderson pulled his hamstring. Sounds like he might be a little better. It didn't sound too horrible from McVay, so it does give Akers a chance to shine. What do you guys think about that Henderson pulling his hamstring? Were you guys? I know we've been Akers supporters, but do you think this gives him an even better shot for Week 1?
I didn't really notice it, but somebody on Twitter pointed out. Who I think it was the I forgot who it was exactly, but anyways, they mentioned how we haven't really heard anything about Cam Akers. And if you look in the comments, it ranges anywhere from, oh, it's because he's not doing good to, oh, McVay's keeping the secrets hidden. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think right now. I mean, I love it because I love Cam Akers, but
I think exactly what the latter that you said was the secrets. I mean, he's already said before, Cam Akers has nothing. He needs to prove himself. He's not walking into a starting role. And he said, Darrell Henderson we like. Malcolm Brown was getting first-team reps the other day. So I think that he's just trying to, because Cam Akers is not getting the normal rookie offseason, that's how he's trying to show him, hey man, you better still prove it. You're not walking into anything just because Gurley is gone. Now we talked. I did mention about Miles Sanders probably dropping down as an RB1. I love Miles Sanders. You guys know he's my guy, my RB5 right now. But I have to think twice now that Andre Dillard has suffered a bicep injury and he's going to be out for the whole season. Now, who's Andre Dillard? He was their rookie last year, who they've now have to move to left tackle because Jason Peters left. They brought Jason Peters back, thankfully, who's now probably going to be their left tackle. But Jason Kelsey retired. They've got so many. Lane Johnson got injured on Sunday, and he's questionable for the opener. Brandon Brooks, one of the top guards in the league, got injured. He's out for the year. Guys, is this a good thing for Miles Sanders? Because maybe they're going to rely on him some more, and more negative for Carson Wentz. What do you think?
I think it's more negative for Carson Wentz. I mean, you got Jason Peters, who was retired a few months ago, and now he's protecting his blind side. I think that's going to hurt him, definitely. Where I think they're going to rely more on that run game and maybe even screen game with Sanders. So, well, I mean, it's time will only tell on that, but I think it's definitely going to hurt Wentz more. I feel like he always gets a raw end of the deal. I feel like someone always gets hurt, or I mean, last year all those wide receivers got hurt, and then this or he ended up getting hurt. But well, I guess we'll see. Hopefully everyone comes back healthy and that he's able to still be a decent quarterback this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely worried about it. I mean, I do think it could potentially mean more catches for Miles Sanders. And, obviously they might need to rely on him more, but definitely affects both. I think it affects both the run game and Carson Wentz. Just the whole team in general. I mean, having a good offensive line is huge.
Yeah, we always say how important the quarterback position is, but that offensive line, without that, the quarterback is not going to –
And people are finally starting to realize that, you're seeing these linemen get bigger contracts. The Bills just gave Dawkins $15 million a year, is it?
He's the fifth highest paid tackle in the game right now.
Well, that's the big thing is, the blind side getting injured, and obviously they wanted Dillard to fill that Peters role, and thankfully Peters came back, but, they want Dillard to be able to do that and grow. So the big thing, though, about losing all these linemen is you're going to need that running back to be able to block, on passing plays. And I think as Boston Scott was a good pass blocker in the times that he's had, I still think Miles Sanders is going to get that, which, like you said, is going to get him out there more. Thankfully, they opened against Washington, the Rams, and the Bengals. So 2 out of those 3 games, if they're missing some linemen, hopefully they get a little healthier, that they'll be able to get back to form. So speaking of the Bengals, Joe Mixon missed practice today due to migraines. So hopefully he's going to be all right with that in the next couple of days. But there's been some speculation from some Bengals reporters that he could be sitting out. Actually, not with any migraine issues, sitting out due to contract talks. There's been obviously we know that they can't really sit out of training camp due to the new CBA, but they still only need to play 6 games in the regular season in order to gain that year towards free agency. So if they don't get any contract extension and there's a chance he could sit out 10 games, is Joe Mixon someone you're worried about at all, or is it nothing? Is it just the migraines?
I think if it's the contract thing, I think he's being a little selfish. I mean, we just talked about how it's kickoff is in 2 weeks. Why didn't you say this when training camp first opened?
They talked about in the beginning of the month. He already said he'll give him a good deal, nothing too crazy, but he obviously wants to make some money.
Yeah, but why? If he's sitting out because of the contract now, already 2 weeks into camp, I mean, come on. I'm hoping it's just the migraines and he's not actually sitting out because of contract issues.
If he still has migraines next week, then I'm worried.
Give my man some ibuprofen and go out there and help my boy Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might just be the migraines. I'm not believing too much into him sitting out, but I just wanted to play that advocate for a moment. But Zach
because
Taylor
why?
did say,
Sorry, I just want to mention on it, but why? Like we said, why not say anything? Like, you want to get paid. You want to put the pressure on them.
He said in the beginning of August.
Yeah,
but he's not going to sit out of training camp and get fined and everything.
He said he's going to sit out for the season?
No, he said that he would give them a good team-friendly deal.
I know, but I'm saying if he really wanted to get it done right away, he'd be publicly threatening to hold out.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be saying he has migraines. I don't think.
Yeah, like you said, it's probably nothing. We'll see a little more to come. But like I said, Zach Taylor, he did mention, though, that Gio is still going to be used in the pass-catching role. I'm not too worried about that because Gio was used last year. He was used the year before, and Mixon still is able to get his production. He still gets a lot of touches. So, like we said, more to come with that news. David Montgomery, Chicago Bears running back, coming into his second year. He's out 2 to 4 weeks, got injured today with a groin injury yesterday, for those of you listening, on Friday, obviously. So there's backup his second year, Ryan Nall, along with Tariq Cohen. So they may bring somebody in for the beginning of the season or just let Tariq Cohen shine. He had 7 out of 15 games with at least 6 catches. So, for PPR, that's obviously going to give him a boost for the potential first month. So I would say I think he's going pretty late now, I think in like the 50s. So he might be someone that you can jump a couple rounds at least. So more to come with that. But like I said, Tariq Cohen could be somebody that's pretty good with PPR. Devin Singletary is having fumbling issues. So those Zach Moss truthers out there, who's he's been performing well in camp and catching the ball very well. So there's a chance that maybe Zach Moss could take over.
Absolutely, there's a chance. I don't want that to happen. I have some Singletary stocks, but I'm thinking he's going to take over eventually, anyways. Fumble issues or not for Singletary. I just feel like Zach Moss is more of a running back that this coaching staff wants, where Singletary is more of a third down back, if that makes sense. I feel like, Singletary can be used more in that pass catching role, where Zach Moss, he has the ability to do both, run between the tackles and be a pass catcher. Well, because we saw that he did a good job of that in college in Utah. So.
Yeah, I don't really think he was drafted to take over there. I don't think that's what the coaching staff wants to do. I think they want to use them both. I think they both get a decent workload. I mean, nothing crazy, but I
don't know if it's what they wanted, but he's showing a lot in camp from what we're hearing that maybe he's making it's what just might happen. Talent rises to the top.
60-40, I could see the touches.
It could happen, but Singletary was good.
He was good.
But, I mean, those fumbling issues, we saw it in that Pittsburgh game, which was a very important game.
And this offense could use all the weapons that it could get. You know what I mean? Like,
Singletary is good, but the important thing that we did talk about last 5 games of the season, 3rd and carries, 4th and yards, no touchdowns. That was the big thing. So, they want someone who can get it done on the ground, and maybe Zach Moss is that guy.
You guys feel that Singletary –
They also, if you look, Frank Gore also had 11 carries inside the 5, and he just so. I mean, I think Moss is definitely going to get the goal line work and stuff like that. But I think Singletary is still going to be.
One more thing I want to add before we move on. Do you guys think that Singletary isn't as efficient from the 20 to the goal line? Where I feel like
on the ground he's not. In the air he definitely is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like that's where the Zach Moss factor comes in. Where once they get closer to the goal line, they're going to put Zach Moss in.
Yeah. And speaking of another smaller back trying to make a name for themselves, Ron Rivera talked up Bryce Love. So keep your eye out for him in the later round drafts. He could be a very nice sleeper. I do think he will be a nice sleeper, with Geis obviously being kicked off the team. Some scary news. Matt Patricia says he wants to use a committee backfield. So that definitely brings DeAndre Swift down a couple notches, but I don't think he's more talented than Kerryon, Keenan. What do you think?
Didn't Kerryon just say that he feels that he can't do half the stuff that Swift can do? I mean, come on. What's going on there? I mean, I'm scared to even draft him in any of my redraft leagues, either of the backs. So I don't
think it bumps him down. I mean, I guess maybe for some people, but for me personally, I was going into this whole thing thinking it was going to be a committee. And like you guys said, Kerryon himself is saying he can't do things that Swift can do. And
when I saw the
Kerryon report come out, what it was that?
When I saw the Kerryon report come out, after he made that statement, I'm like, all right, well, this is Swift's job then. And then this comes out, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Kerryon, I don't think he can actually handle a full workload at all. So I mean, and DeAndre Swift can, and I think, like you said, this year is gonna be a committee, but after this year, it's gonna be Swift's job, hands down.
Yeah, I think if you get Swift, I don't think Kerryon's someone you should grab later. But I think if you're not drafting Swift, you might want to grab Kerryon in the later rounds for the potential of something happening to DeAndre. But we'll talk a little more about that with our ranking shows next week, which I'm extremely excited for, by the way. Drew Brees, I believe, did I say predicted a breakout year for Traquan Smith? So hype train express going there. And Dolphins traded Kalen Ballage, a late trade in this offseason. Well, training camp season. Dolphins traded Kalen Ballage to the Jets, back to Adam Gase's clutches, for a conditional late-round pick. I don't think there's any more to talk about with that one. But except the only thing I want to ask is this a depth move, or is this someone that can really challenge Le'Veon Bell on like the short yardage work or goal line work?
No.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely – you're going to – if he makes the team, you got to think that he's going to take some goal line work away from him.
I've seen Adam Gase and Kalen Ballage together, and they are not a good duo in this league. I'm not worried about it.
Adam Gase begs to differ.
I know, but I don't know. Le'Veon Bell.
I'm pretty sure Kalen Ballage just
there's no
upset. He was like, I find out I'm traded. Oh, okay, not bad. That's fine. Where am I going? Wait, what? Back to Adam Gase.
Don't worry. He won't be the coach much longer.
He will not. So to any new listeners out there, welcome in. I appreciate you guys for coming. Like I said, that's our news and notes. We got in our final show of our division previews. We have the AFC and the NFC South. So after that, next week we do start our rankings. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So, like I said, very excited for that. And then, the season's right around the corner. So, with that being said, let's dive into the AFC South. It's going to be a little long episode again today. Sorry about that. But like I said, that should be the last one for a while. AFC South, Houston Texans. Let's talk about them for a little bit. So, 2019 Houston Texans, they won the division 10-6, won their first-round playoff game. And Deshaun Watson had a pretty good year. DeAndre Hopkins obviously got traded away. Brandon Cooks came in. Lamar Miller's gone. David Johnson came in. So, a whole revamp around Deshaun Watson here, hoping Will Fuller can be that running back wide receiver one for them. So do you think that Deshaun Watson, with that being said, is going to be better without Hopkins as a fantasy quarterback?
I mean, I don't think it's going to change much because of his run ability, honestly. And I mean, on paper, they still have a pretty good team. They had Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, they have Kenny Stills, and they also have, like you said, they traded for David Johnson, who actually was a top 10 PPR running back through the first 8 weeks. Excuse me. Last season, was it last season that he played, or was it 2 years ago that he played?
He played the first 8 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and he was a top 10 PPR running back last year. So I mean, I'm sorry.
It was through 8 games. He was a top 10. David Johnson, you said in PPR.
Top first 8 weeks, he was a top 10 PPR running back.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then also, I mean, I look at Carlos Hyde, who's had success in that Texan system last year, and it gives me hope for David Johnson also. I mean, if Carlos Hyde can do it, I mean, in that system, I can see David Johnson, who I feel is a better running back, who has been a better running back in his career. But back to Watson, I mean, they still have, they probably lose in a top 5 wide receiver, but on paper, they still have a really good team, especially at wide receiver. I feel like Cooks, Fuller, and Stills is a pretty good trio there. If Will Fuller can stay healthy, man, there's some games that I saw Will Fuller play, and I was amazed. I mean, I watched him play in Notre Dame as well, and he had a pretty good college career as well. But my man just can't stay on the field in the NFL.
Yeah, he had the best game of the fantasy season last year of all players. You remember with his 220-yard and 15 catch, 3 touchdown game. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, I ask with Deshaun Watson, and I know it sounds crazy to think, oh, you just lost one of the best wide receivers in the league. How can you be better? But that means he's going to have to do more, right? And he's already fantastic as is that you got to see with Hopkins. But like you just said, you've seen the connection with Will Fuller. Brandon Cooks is coming in, so he can be a little shorter route kind of a player. Or you can't put him on the outside. He's shown he can prove well. He's been a 1,000-yard receiver with all 3 teams that he's been on. So I just think they wanted to get more speed for Deshaun Watson.
Also,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So I mean, with Deshaun Watson, last season he finished as the quarterback 5. Sorry, and he's obviously going as the quarterback 3 right now. But he had a less pass attempt year. You got to assume those are going to go up now, right? I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball more. That's for sure. And he's going to be running the ball probably more as well. Like I said, he's going to do more things. He had almost 20 attempts less in 2019 than he did in 2018. He had a couple hundred yards less in 2019 than 2018 through the air. So I think that he can improve his yardage, and I think that he can improve his rushing ability attempt-wise. And that's going to really help him potentially be or even fight for the number 1 overall quarterback. He can get 700 yards and close to 4,200, 4,300 passing yards. And, I mean, he had 33 touchdowns total last year. Well, let's just say he can't get close to 35, 37, And
then when you have someone like Hopkins, as great of a wide receiver he is, offenses call plays and force the ball into their top player like Hopkins, because, I mean, we've seen top wide receivers get frustrated with quarterbacks that the ball's not going their way. So now if you take Hopkins out of this offense and you bring in Brandon Cooks, who's seems like he's been a great team player when he was in New England and also in LA, and you're kind of taking off that pressure off Watson, that he doesn't have to force the ball just to Hopkins. He can spread the ball out more and actually throw it to wide receivers that are open instead of just throwing it at Hopkins and hoping he makes a catch.
Yeah. I got to say, I think that Brandon Cooks actually finishes the year over 1,000 yards and is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. I still like Fuller to have a decent season. I just, I don't know. I don't think he's meant to be a number one wide receiver. Like you said, he's always had Hopkins there. So, I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen without Hopkins there. I mean, luckily he has Brandon Cooks now on the other side, which is good. But, like Antonio said, Brandon Cooks on all the teams he's been with, he's had over 1,000 yards. So I'm not worried that he can get over it again, especially with Watson as his quarterback. But what would worry me about Watson is if these wide receivers all start getting hurt. If Fuller's out, something happens to Cooks, then what? You got only Kenny Stills, and what else?
I mean, injuries are going to happen. I mean, you can't. I mean, if Hopkins was on the team,
but he's always had Hopkins.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't say that Hopkins would never get hurt. I mean, that could always happen as well.
No, I know. I just.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your point. Like, if Fuller and Cook if they get hurt, which they had injuries in the past, can't imagine Kenny Stills being a number one. But
yeah.
Go ahead, Antonio.
I was going to say that's the biggest question because I'm sitting here and we're all saying Watson can be great, but yeah, if Will Fuller doesn't play and then Brandon Cooks unfortunately has any concussion problems, yeah, he can't. Watson might not even be able to return top 5. Form, and that's when you're drafting him at 3, 4, or 5, that may not be too horrible, but if he ends up being the quarterback 10, 11, or 12, and you drafted him in the 6th round, 5th round, you're going to be pretty upset. That could hurt you.
Yeah, and the other thing, like we've seen Watson be fine when Fuller gets injured, but Hopkins has only missed 2 games in his whole career, so we don't know what would happen if he legitimately had only Kenny Stills as his wide receiver 1, because currently his top 2 wide receivers do have injury history. I mean, Brandon Cooks hasn't missed many games, but he still has that concussion history, which is never good.
He's going to have to rely on Darren Fells more because, he relied on him a lot last year. He had 7 touchdowns.
Cahill Waring year.
What's that?
Cahill Waring is going to be the one this year. He's going to be the tight end.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's going to have to rely on those tight ends more then if injuries do pile up. But.
Someone's got to do that. And, if anybody does have any injuries or just if he's throwing the ball in general more, you'd think that running backs are going to get it. Duke Johnson obviously will get the ball, but nobody besides Duke Johnson under the Bill O'Brien era as a running back has had more than 46 catches. Is David Johnson, if he can't even get over 40, there's no shot of him being a running back 1, I think, because he might see just over 200 carries unless you guys got him, for a lot more. But do you think he can get more than 40 catches?
When you trade DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, you're as the coach / GM, you're going to make sure that you use David Johnson, in my opinion. You got to make yourself look good. And he made the trade. The coach / GM made the trade, and doesn't he call plays there as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's going to use them a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think he's going to have a crazy amount of catches, but I do think he can get over 40 and close to 50.
Also, the other thing we got to remember, Hopkins had 150 targets last year and 163 in 2008. Those are a lot of catches. You got targets you got to split up between Cooks, Fuller, Kenny Stills. If you want to throw Randall Cobb in there, and the tight ends as well. So there's a lot of catches that a lot of targets that can be split up between everyone.
Well, yeah, Randall Cobb's a good mention. He's probably going to see close to 80, 90 targets, if not more. I do think Cooks has a shot at 130, and then hopefully Will Fuller will get over 100 plus, but. And then he can spread the rest out between the running backs and tight ends. That's how I think it should work. What will actually work will be interesting. But, Cooks and Fuller are basically being drafted right next to each other. For me, I'd prefer Cooks over Fuller. How about you guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Cooks over Will Fuller?
Yeah.
Yes, I have Cooks. I have him as the number 1 wide receiver on this offense, and I have him getting over 1,000 yards, and I'm not worried. This is the thing, I know we're talking about injuries and stuff, but we don't want to try and predict that. So if this wide receiving core, if they all stay healthy and play a full 16 games, Watson, I believe, is a clear-cut top 5.
Like I said, they look great on paper.
Yeah, That's the thing about it. Like, everyone's worried that they lost Hopkins, but I mean, the team still looks great. They just need to stay healthy and put it together, and they're going to be fine.
I was going to mention that, after that trade happened, the Hopkins trade happened, everyone kind of, lost their mind. Like, oh, what is his name? I keep forgetting his name, the coach.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien. But the trade was awful because of the return he got for Hopkins. But I guess he did pretty good by getting, Cooks and getting David Johnson to fit this offense. So I think he upgraded at running back, and he took maybe a slight decline in the wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that, but I think he does have more options. So it used to be Hopkins, and then, like we said, if Fuller could play, and then it was really just Hopkins. So, I mean, just looking, Randall Cobbs is going as the 81st wide receiver. We're looking – oh, geez, that's why I'm stuck in standard. Sorry, let me fix myself here. But I'm sure he's going still too low to where if Fuller gets injured, I mean, they're using Cobb in the slot, and I think that's where O'Brien, obviously, like you just said, traded for him for a reason. They're going to use him, and I find it hard to believe that he can't. And like I said, if at least going to see 80, 90 targets, that could be 50, 60 catches for Randall Cobb, going 68th. That's pretty low. That's pretty low for me. 68th, but overall 196, so basically not even drafted. So it could be someone just keep an eye out for in free agency. That's, I think, about all I think I have for the Texans. You got Duke Johnson. Are you looking at Duke Johnson in PPR at all?
I traded for him just because, like I said, he was cheap, so I don't really.
Yeah, he's a cheap option, but it's tough just because David Johnson is so good in the pass game as well. And he, like we said, he traded him for DeAndre Hopkins. So, I mean, I don't know.
So is he an RB1 for you, David Johnson?
No. Not in like.
No, because this year seems like the top end of the running backs is actually very good. Like, I mean, you got your top four, but it seems like the rest up until the next 7, 8, or 9 running backs, like they're all pretty good this year. I mean, it drops off and whatnot, but it.
Would you rather draft Jonathan Taylor or David Johnson in a redraft?
I'd rather have David Johnson.
Yeah, I do agree there as well.
I was about to say maybe the ceiling's there with Jonathan Taylor, but then I'm thinking no, the ceiling's there with David Johnson too. Yeah. Like there's a chance he could see 300 touches in this offense. Obviously, one of them's a lot more limber and younger and faster, but I still got to go with David Johnson for redraft.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Jonathan Taylor that we were just talking about for the Indianapolis Colts. They drafted him this year in the second round. Not their first second-round pick, mind you. That was their second-round pick. Their first one was Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver out of USC. So another player we're going to talk about. So they loaded themselves up in this draft with some talent. They are surrounding themselves with their new quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Old quarterback to Frank Reich, as he was able to be his offensive coordinator back with the San Diego Chargers at the time. So I feel like he's going to come in and just slide into the offense he's been used to for years. And it's really not going to be – it's going to be a tougher transition, obviously, because it's new faces. But if everybody can be on board, I think that it can be actually a pretty good offense that can just go from right there. They got one of these – go right off the bat. They got one of the easiest schedules in the league. They have a good defense. They have one of the best offensive lines. They have powerful running backs. T.Y. Hilton's coming back. Tell me something bad about this team that you don't like. I mean, where's the flaws? Where's the negative besides it just, can all go downhill, which I guess
the only thing that I would, question is what Phillip Rivers are we going to see? I mean, it looked like there was a clear decline in his game last year. He was missing open wide receivers. He was, it looked clear that he was just on the decline. He's got a good team, the best offensive line in the league, but which is definitely going to help. And he still has a good wide receiving core. So I think he can be good, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. But
I mean, he was so bad last year. He had a career worst 3.9 touchdown rate last year, on top of his 20 interceptions. And Antonio, you said that the Indies team is so good on paper, especially on your offensive side. Weren't the Chargers good on paper too on the offensive side of the ball? A lot of weapons there in LA, and I did not see the Rivers that we've all seen, that we all got to love over the years. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he had Eckler, he had Gordon. Trying to think of what else was over there, but he had a pretty good
Keenan
offense.
Allen, Mike Williams.
Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
He did have a good offense, but I think maybe I don't know how to explain kind of what happened. It does seem to all rest on him, but he had the most yards that he had, in almost 4 seasons, and obviously he had a lot of attempts
from all these games.
What'd you say?
They're behind in all these games. So
I understand that, but I agree. But you have to think that Indy's going to be putting up points, and that he's going to be a big reason for that. It's not like they're probably not going to be playing behind very often, of course. And I'm sure that they were going to run the ball when they're up, but they got to get up first. And, I don't think he's going – I mean, we're not sitting here saying, hey, he's going to be your quarterback 1. But he finished as quarterback 15 last year. And we care about fantasy. We don't care about NFL. In NFL, he looks like a 39-year-old quarterback should look like throwing a ball sometimes. What'd you say?
That's a great point.
I definitely think he's a solid later round target in Superflex leagues. But I really don't want him as my starter for a 1 QB league.
Yeah, that's scary. Now let me ask you a question. When Andrew Luck was healthy as last year, he led Indy to 433 points. Brissett last year managed to get the Colts to 361. And not a big drop off. I mean, you're looking at 60 points.
I mean, that's almost 5 points a game. That's a lot.
That's a decent amount, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where do you see Rivers? You see Rivers going to about 400 points this year?
Honestly, like I'm not a big strength of schedule guy, but they play a lot of weaker teams from just from what we can, just what the schedule I guess looks like. Yes, I know on paper, and I'm saying we're not going to look too deep into that. A lot can change, but if he can slide in. And that offense can be what San Diego was. Paris Campbell can be the slot version of Keenan Allen, obviously not as great. T.Y. Hilton's coming back. He's a deep threat with Mike Williams. Michael Pittman is Mike Williams' version coming downhill. You got Jack Doyle, who's great with PPR, gets a lot of catches. You got your Melvin Gordon, your Austin Eckler in the backfield with Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor. And then, there's Marlon Mack. A lot of options for Phillip Rivers. I just find it so hard that they're going to fail unless his arm fails, of course. Like, that's where it falls from. But if not, I think Indy's an 11-win team for sure. Winning the division. Phillip Rivers is going to be probably right around 15th again. I mean, I think he will. And then he's going quarterback 24 right now. So if you want to wait on quarterback, which I highly advise, I mean, I'm going 14th, 15th, 16th round until I'm grabbing my quarterback. Phillip Rivers might not be too bad. And then, you know what? You got someone else on the waiver wire like a Gardner Minshew if Phillip Rivers doesn't work out.
That's if it's a 1-quarterback league.
So correct, assuming that.
Yeah, but the good thing about it, with his play declining, is I think this team is just going to run the ball. They're gonna run their offense through the run game. They have they have one amazing running back in my opinion, and one really good running back. I knew
you love Nyheim Hines.
Yeah,
I'm a Hines fan. I have him on one of my dynasty leagues, and what I've heard or what I've read is that they're gonna use him a lot.
He was the Alvin Kamara version, like talent-wise and everything, coming out of NC State a couple years ago. He looked great. Didn't mean to cut you off there, Eric, but sorry.
Yeah,
keep going.
But what I wanted to say is,
kind of excited.
Yeah, very good. But I don't know if I'm too high on Jonathan Taylor, but I think he takes over quick. I don't think it's going to be very long. I mean, maybe a couple games, if that. I mean, he's going to be used right off the bat. But they said they could be starting Marlon Mack game one, but they're still going to be giving Jonathan Taylor the ball, and I think he's going to impress with the ball in his hand, and he's just going to take over real quick there. And I think he has a good shot to get over 1,000 yards and, not necessarily double-digit touchdowns, but a good amount of touchdowns, maybe 7, 8, maybe even 9.
Yeah, people love Marlon Mack, or the Marlon Mack truthers. They're like, "Oh, he got over 1,000 yards. He was still good and efficient when he got the ball." He was, but he was not highly touted coming out as far as a prospect. And he's more of a north to south runner, and his hips aren't too great. He's not going to be there in the backfield either. Jonathan Taylor, or in the pass catching part of the backfield, Jonathan Taylor can do that, and he's bigger and he's quicker. And I think if you see Marlon Mack doing that kind of production with that line and that team, and we're only thinking they're getting better, yeah, you're right. He should slide in. He should do well real quick. But just think if anything happened to Marlon Mack in the next couple of days or the next week, how high would Jonathan Taylor skyrocket? He's going as the 19th running back right now. I mean, he's probably top 10? He might be right on the borderline.
Well, I wanted to mention that is, I want to mention that is, for me, like I said earlier, I think they have one amazing running back and one good running back. Is talent-wise, Jonathan Taylor's elite. His ceiling is running back 1. He maybe not this year, but overall, I think his type of talent-wise ceiling, his ceiling talent-wise is running back 1. And I look at Marlon Mack, he's, I'd say his ceiling is more of a, mid to high running back 2 type of ceiling there. And that's why I think he's just going to take over. He's going to impress so much, and he's going to be so good. He's already impressing in camp. He's running people over.
He just has to hold on to the football. That's the big thing. He had a couple issues with holding the ball in college, and if he comes out right away and he fumbles, that could be an issue. But you're right. I think they love him there, and I think they like Mack a lot too. But like we said, talent rises to the top. Taylor probably will come through. Like I said, being drafted as a back-end RB2 right now, so could still be a good value. Let's just shift to the wide receivers real quick.
What's Max IDP right now?
I'm
ADP.
sorry?
What's Max ADP right now?
He's 33rd. So he's only, well, I don't want to say only, but he is about 6 rounds lower than Jonathan Taylor. So if you're not a Jonathan Taylor truther, or you're worried about the offseason with him coming in and not being able to get it done right away, even though I know it's a troubled offseason, but running backs tend to transition to the NFL a lot quicker than in any other position, a lot easier. So if you believe in Marlon Mack, goodness, please wait. Please wait and grab Marlon Mack.
Yeah, and I think Marlon Mack still has a decent season. I still have him for 700 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's just – I think it's to be more in the beginning of the season that he gets that, and especially towards the end of the season, it's going to be more of the Jonathan Taylor show.
I hope they trade him.
Hey, they might. I mean, I think his contract's up after next season. If it's not this season, actually, this could be his 4th year. So that would definitely be something that could happen because, like I said, Hines is pretty good, and Phillip Rivers loves to throw the football to the running back. So I think in PPR leagues, I think there's a good shot that Nyheim Hines could maybe get you on the verge of 50 catches. I don't think that's too crazy. Austin Eckler had over 90 last year. Melvin Gordon had over 40. And like I said, Frank Reich came from the Chargers offense. So I want to talk about the wide receivers real quick, and then we'll be done with.
I think this is more of an exciting position for them than a running back position, honestly.
I agree.
A lot of unproven talent here. Besides
there's a lot of hype. Well, T.Y. Hilton coming back at age 31. I don't know if he's still got that same speed coming off the injury from last year too.
The one thing I want to mention about T.Y. Hilton, we all know who he is, but Rivers does love to take that. Even at his age last year, he still loved to throw the deep pass. And if T.Y. Hilton can catch a couple of those, he can be, and he stays healthy, he can finish it as a great wide receiver too for you.
He could definitely be wide receiver too. Being drafted right now as the wide receiver 18, so that right around where he could be going. Michael Pittman Jr. really not even drafted. Paris Campbell, their higher pick last year in the 2nd round. He tore his ACL, I believe, last year.
Yeah.
But he was a high prospect out of Ohio State. Very good slot receiver. He was a higher prospect than Terry McLaurin, whom his teammate was. And you see what Terry McLaurin can do. Obviously, different players, but Paris Campbell is extremely talented. I think that him and Phillip Rivers might have an instant connection. I think he can also get potentially 50 or 60 catches this year and do a little bit of damage. He might be somebody you want to keep an eye on for either late in the drafts or for your early waiver wire.
Who do you think has more receptions this year, Zach Pascal or Michael Pittman?
I'm glad you mentioned Zach Pascal. He was a very interesting player last year. I picked him up in a couple of dynasty leagues and played him because redraft, he didn't really fit into what I was looking for. But, when I played him in the deeper rosters, he's performed very well. It was extremely interesting how him and Brissett worked. And then, sorry?
He led the Colts in every receiving category.
Yeah, for the end of the season when he played, right?
Yeah,
and,
with Hilton and Campbell obviously being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but now he's back in. It's kind of like a Darius Slayton situation where they are both getting put back to the end now that they perform well when they had their chance, but their other players are coming back in that are obviously more proven, and they're gonna show up. And I think that Paris Campbell, like I said, can do really well. I think that Michael Pittman Jr. will probably have more catches than Pascal because he's going to get more playing time. He's going to be the wide receiver 3. They spent the draft capital up, and like I said, they drafted him ahead of Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if Michael Pittman is getting enough attention right now.
I actually wanted to mention something about that. Is I don't think them taking him above Taylor means he was necessarily a higher priority for them. Obviously they still wanted him and they still love him, but I think it was more so there was a wide receiver run and they were worried that he was going to get taken.
Yeah.
And then there was a running back run because they were 10 picks after Michael Pittman. They picked again. They traded up 3 more spots to 41 to draft Jonathan Taylor. Around that same time, Akers was going and so forth. So, I think.
Or they felt he was a better football player. I mean, when
you still got to look at it.
When these GMs are setting up those boards, they always take best player available. It doesn't matter what your holes are really. You're always taking best player available. You're not going to take a huge gamble and take someone that's projected to be drafted, 10, 15 spots later. That's how you don't build a team like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like Pittman and everything, but I'm not a fan of him really for this year. I do think it's going to be the T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell show. T.Y. Hilton last year, when he played, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen had that connection. He's going to want to go to his number 1 receiver. And like you said, speaking on Paris Campbell, I think Paris Campbell actually has a really good year. I think he gets actually over 60 catches even.
Yeah, I mean, if you are looking for depth, especially in Dynasty, I would definitely contact the Paris Campbell owners because he's going to go cheap.
But I don't think there's going to be enough there for Pittman or Pascal to be anything fantasy relevant.
Yeah, because Jack Doyle is going to get some targets too. Rivers likes his tight end. He is 31. Doyle.
They brought in Trey Burton too. Don't forget.
And they legitimately can have one of the best rushing attacks in the league, so they could just be rushing a ton.
I'm telling you, they are building this just like the Chargers offense. It is going to, you got Mike Williams, you had Antonio Gates, you had a second tight end that you kind of rotated between Ladarius Green and Virgil Green, or whoever was there at that time. And then, you have your outside receivers and you got a slot receiver. It's going to be really interesting how they play.
Yeah, someone we haven't mentioned yet that we should is Jack Doyle. He could sneakily have a very good season.
He really could. He could see 80 targets. I mean, he could see even more than that. I mean, and he has used as a high catch rate. At least he did with Luck. Luck loved his tight ends just like Rivers. But, I mean, that's 50, 60 catch potential. I mean, that could put him – yeah, what do you have him?
I got him at 90 targets, 55 catches. So,
yeah, I think he's going to
560 yards and 6 touchdowns.
He's definitely going to get more touchdowns or more red zone looks because Ebron ate up a lot of that. When he was there in Indy for sure. So
if he stays healthy, he's gonna have a great year.
Yeah. So how about so let me ask you one then for T.Y. Hilton, and then we're gonna move on. Just because I'm kind of curious myself. I think I said he was like 18th in the draft position. He's about 25th. We're looking on Fantasy Pros here. Like I said, PPR. Actually, it just keeps reloading over to my standard. I'm sorry, guys. So PPR-wise, he actually will be even lower. So he's 26th. So Terry McLaurin, he's right in between Terry McLaurin and Stephon Diggs. So he's ahead of Diggs and behind McLaurin. Would you take Hilton over Diggs or Hilton over McLaurin?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm
this year for redrafts, of course.
Yeah, I'm assuming that maybe I'm being a little biased. I'm assuming that Allen's going to be a better quarterback than Rivers, and then also what Scary Terry did in Washington without really a quarterback, I just can't. I can't see a big drop off going from if he struggles this year in his second year. But also, is T.Y. going to stay healthy? That's also a big concern of mine. He's getting up there in age.
Yeah, he's got a new quarterback whom we're worried about the deep ball. I'm really fading T.Y. this year. But I'm probably
both those guys having a better year than him. So
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with that. That's probably going to wrap up the Colts. If you guys have nothing else.
You mean the Chargers?
Yeah, or the Chargers. So, all right, with that, we'll move on to the Jacksonville London Jaguars. Last season didn't do so hot. Well, actually, 6-10, so they probably did a little better. I think they did do a little better than their projection, but they did finish fourth in the league. They did. They have Gardner Minshew. They have DJ Chark. They drafted Laviska Shenault. They lost a lot of players. Yannick Ngakoue still working on moving. I don't know. It's just interesting to see what's going on with Jacksonville. Leonard Fournette had a 100-target season last year. Jay Gruden comes in as their offensive coordinator. Tyler Eifert comes in. Chris Thompson comes in. There's just so much uncertainty. I guess the only person you're probably certain about is DJ Chark, right?
And the other thing I'm certain about is I'm drafting Gardner Minshew in the first round so I can get that free beer for a year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I am falling in love with Gardner Minshew. Not necessarily for fantasy, but just as a person, he's just awesome.
Yeah, you're just one of those people you want to go have a beer with,
But yeah, if you draft them in the first round, send the picture to the one Twitter. They'll give you a case of Bud Light.
The one Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
on Gardner Minshew's Twitter. Just go on there. He posted it. But if you win your league as him as your first round pick, they give you beer for an entire season.
Hold on, so you get free beer. You get a free case of beer if I just draft them and I win my league.
In your first round.
No. You get a free case of beer if you just draft them and send the picture to their Twitter.
Oh, I'm gonna do that right now.
But if you win your league, you get free beer for the entire season.
Well, I know what
I'm guessing next season.
I'm logging into one of the Yahoo or ESPN websites, and I'm doing a free league, and I'm drafting Gardner Minshew, and I'm gonna try to win this league.
There you go. But
well, speaking of Gardner Minshew, I think, like you said, you're going on board with him. I'm going on board with him. I'm a big fan of the wide receivers of Jacksonville. I'll talk about them in a moment. But Minshew came in as, what was it, a 6th-round pick, and
I was going to say I thought he was undrafted, but I
might have been wrong. I got to double check that. But Nick Foles got injured in the first week, and it just it never looked back. Well, he did. They tried to bring Foles back in, it didn't work. Minshew got another shot, and he performed really well. It was kind of tough to even be able to sit him, but they spent a lot of money on Nick Foles, so you almost had to do that. But he came in and he threw over 20 touchdowns. Did not throw a lot of interceptions. Like we said, they finished 6-10. 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. I
don't know why.
If I told you that they were going to finish 6-10 with a 6th-round quarterback, you would take that as a 6.
I don't understand all the hate on Gardner Minshew. Like, people are just writing him off and think that he's definitely not going to be the quarterback there next year. But like you said, he was a late-round pick. That was his rookie year, and all he had was DJ Chark, really. Obviously Fournette too, but
who's their backup?
Yeah, but
who's going to take over his spot?
Oh, I think their backup is Deshaun Kaiser. I could be wrong on that one.
I do like a Notre Dame prospect, but there's no chance that he's not gonna.
If not, it's Brett Hundley.
If they have like at least an 8-8 season, or maybe even 7-9, and in some of the games were close, I don't see them going after a quarterback next year. I think they'll stick with Minshew. But I mean, obviously, if they're only a couple wins, then obviously they're probably gonna draft a quarterback. But I like him. I think he's good. Like, I really do. Not a special talent, but it's hard to find a quarterback nowadays, and he's a pretty good quarterback.
It is, and he had a really good floor actually too, because of his rushing ability. I mean, he had at least 40 yards in 3 of his games. He had at least 28, in 5 of them. So just alone right there, you already have 3 points that you're already guaranteed. He threw a touchdown pass in all but 2 of his games. He only played 14 of them. So 21 touchdowns in 14 games. You add Laviska Shenault, who the Jaguars are raving about, whom I also happen to love. He's going to be their short route runner right in the slot, who can do really well, a very powerful slot. He can do more than just a slot, but when he gets that ball, he's very quick. A lot of yards after catch, very similar to kind of like, Juju Smith-Schuster. But then you got DJ Chark on the outside, who you talked about, had over 1,000 yards with him. They have that connection. Tyler Eifert's going to be nice over the middle for him. I think they're not going to use Leonard Fournette as much in the passing game now that they have Chris Thompson. You have to take that into account. I know Chris Thompson can't stay healthy very often, but there's a reason Jay Gruden from Washington brings over his guy. And obviously to Raquel Armstead, their draft pick from last year, he's going to get some work. So I like Fournette as a value still, though, where he's going. He's going as a middle running back. He's going currently, again, in PPR as a running back 12. So for me, that's a value. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like Fournette a lot, actually. I think people are also writing him off. But for this year, he's going to be great. It's
or 15th, sorry, not 12th.
How many receptions?
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, 27th overall. So I mean, he's going in the early 3rd round. And for me, if like we just said, running backs there's a lot of talent heavy up top, and your first round's probably going to go 8-9 running backs, if not more. So maybe if you're looking at the end of the second after you draft McCaffrey, or early 3rd, I think Fournette's a really good pair. You get McCaffrey, and then at the end of the second, grab DJ Moore and grab Fournette. You have a PPR gold. Well, maybe not more if you got CMC, but around that range.
And
how many targets did he get last year?
He had 100 targets and 76 catches. But not only that, but it's a very good chance he gets more than 3 rushing touchdowns this year.
That's exactly what the issue was.
So if you're still getting 100 targets and all that passing work, on top of what he rushed for 1,150 yards and say 6 or 7 touchdowns, that's going to be a very good year.
What did he have, 370 touches?
I got him getting some
close to 400.
He had, let's see, 35.
Yeah, he had
346, about 340.
Yeah, I mean and he finished 7th in PPR. So, but that's the thing. If he doesn't get his 100 targets and his 76 catches, what's he going to get? Yeah, he had 265 rushes. So,
but what makes you believe he won't get that? You know what I mean?
So they added Shenault. They brought in Chris Thompson. They have a tight end now that's a lot more capable. They had rookies and O'Shaughnessy they were hoping for. He got injured. He's gone now.
Did they have Josh Oliver last year?
They had Josh Oliver, who unfortunately just got injured. They had hopes for him. And then they have D.D. Westbrook. They have Chris Conley. I don't think those two are really going to battle much. People think they're going to be the wide receiver 2 or 3. Again, I think Chenault's going to show pretty quickly. He's going to be the slot guy. D.D. or Conley can battle for another outside with Chark. But yeah,
how many?
79.
What?
I have 79 targets for Fournette.
No, how many targets do you have for Shenault?
For Shenault, I currently have 88.
Okay, so if you look at it, D.D. Westbrook had 101 targets. Chris Conley had 90 targets. If you think they're going to be battling it out, and you think Laviska is going to take over with 88, there's still 100 targets there for Fournette, if you think about it.
Well, but you got to add Thompson. You got to add Eifert.
Westbrook, Conley.
Westbrook. Well, yeah, you had Conley with those, but so I mean, I have more. I honestly, I'm lower on Chenault with targets than I want to be. I want to give him more, but I think he's going to get some rushing in there too, which is going to take from Fournette. He could get 100 targets. Like I said, I think he's going.
You
to
also need Eifert to stay healthy for 16 games.
You do. You need that, but again, they have another body that's another option that will be there to at least take away, especially in the red zone. But yeah, like I said, finished 7th with only 3 touchdowns. That's a big difference. If he had 8 touchdowns, he would have been really close to wide receiver 6 or running back 6 because he was behind by a bit. But
and between the 3 tight ends that they were going between, there was 50 targets. So
yeah,
I mean, you could. Yeah, I think there's a good chance that Fournette gets 90 to 100 targets.
I don't think the targets are that big of an issue if he gets his touchdowns up. I have him at getting 9 total touchdowns this season. So and he only had 3 last year total touchdowns. Did he have any receiving touchdowns?
So
no.
Well, would you rather have Leonard Fournette or Aaron Jones?
I think Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones
relies so much on those touchdowns.
Yeah, but
so I think I'd rather take Fournette where I'm expecting him to get more touchdowns this year and still put up those rushing yards.
Standard league, I'm taking Aaron Jones 100%. But especially PPR, half PPR, it's close. It's very close. I think I'd take.
Yeah, because I mean, I was going to ask if it bothered you. He had almost 60 less touches than Fournette. Jones did, but he had almost 60 more points than Fournette. So it's interesting, how extremely efficient Jones was. We know that's going to regress, and Fournette might have got more. But going as running back 15 right now, like we said, going in early 3rd, I think that's a good spot to grab him. So let's wrap that up for Jacksonville, and let's go over, I think, to the Tennessee Titans, who have another bell cow running back in their own right, as everybody knows, Derrick Henry. Is he gonna compete for RB1 this year? I mean, is he gonna see 350 carries? Is he gonna get double-digit touchdowns? He got his money, so is this team gonna be as efficient as they were? A.J. Brown was insane as a rookie. Ryan Tannehill was beyond elite efficient-wise. Corey Davis' 5th-year breakout, maybe that's going to come through. Jonnu Smith, their young tight end, finally getting a shot. I don't know. What are you guys thinking right now with let's start with Derrick Henry, Eric.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another fantastic year. I don't think he can compete for running back 1. He's only going to get maybe 20 catches. It's not going to be a lot. It's not going to be enough to get over guys like Saquon and CMC and Alvin Kamara. And even Zeke. But I definitely see him as, the 5th running back in there. He's my 5th guy in redraft leagues. I'm taking off the board for sure. But yeah, I think he's going to get, over 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns again. So it's going to be another great season for him. I think efficiency-wise, he's going to be fine. I think the passing game is going to come down. That's
my big concern right there. Is the passing game. What Ryan Tannehill did last year was great. We've never seen – I guess maybe we've seen this Ryan Tannehill once in Miami. But he had a 70% completion percentage. That's not going to happen again. Now, the reason they moved on from Marcus Mariota was because he could not make those plays. And it took away from the run game where we obviously know that Henry's their best player. Now, if Ryan Tannehill struggles and goes back to the old Ryan Tannehill, is the running game going to struggle then? Because defenses are going to load the box up to stop. Like you just said, Henry is not a receiving back. He might get 20 catches. He's more of a downhill runner, and that's where that's where he's going to get his points. But his fantasy points is mostly by rushing. Now, if Ryan Tannehill struggles, what's going to stop the defenses from moving in and putting 7 players in the box? Because
I think having A.J. Brown and Corey Davis out there is going to stop that. I'm not a fan for Corey Davis fantasy wise, but he's a good wide receiver for an NFL team to have out there, and defense has still got to account for him, especially now that they got A.J. Brown on the other side of him, and Jonnu Smith with a potential breakout year coming for him as well. I think there's options in this passing game. But like I said, Corey Davis, fantasy wise, I'm not interested. Only wide receiver I want there is AJ Brown. But yeah, I'm not worried about. I don't know. I'm not worried about it because it's not like last year. I know they were efficient, but it's not like they were one of the best passing offense. It's not like they were one of the most dangerous passing offenses in the league. I mean, it was still the Derrick Henry show.
They were extremely efficient in the last, 6 weeks. They averaged 7.3 yards per play, which, on a 16-game pace would have been the highest all time. They were ridiculous.
They were, but I'm saying –
yeah, they don't pass a lot. I mean, they've been the bottom 5 in pass attempts for the last 4 years.
But I'm saying the most dangerous part of their offense really was Derrick Henry, in my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying, that if Ryan Tannehill can't make those throws that he made last year to move the ball, what's going to stop these defenses from – I'm not a Ryan Tannehill fan. That's where I'm coming from. I've seen Ryan Tannehill come here to Buffalo, and I've seen him play 2 games a year, and he struggled against the Bills almost every game. And all of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill puts together 6 good games or whatever, 12 good games last year, and everyone freaks out. And, I mean, even the Titans freaked out because they gave him all that money, and I think that it's going to come back and bite him in the butt.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page. I don't think he can be as efficient as he was. Definitely not the whole team, but I think there's a chance that Tennessee can compete and they can do well with what, I guess, with the culture that they're doing, with the way they're trying to play their game, the ground and pound. And hey, let's throw the ball. We need to. Let's throw it 25, 30 times a game. We're going to win the games 22-18. Hope our defense does it. That's pretty tough. Maybe they can't win 10 games like that. I'm thinking that they may not be able to, but I think that's the philosophy they're going to go with.
We watched the Bills try to do that for 20 years. That type of offense.
We did. Well, Tannehill's shown some signs of fantasy point. I mean, with Miami, he was a top 10 quarterback. He did have a good season one of the years, and then unfortunately Adam Gase came in recently. But, speaking of A.J. Brown, he was amazing. Like we said, he had over 20 yards per catch. I mean, no rookie's done that in the last 20 years. He had over 14. His average depth of target was over 14. That's ridiculous. That's Tyreek Hill, best career year level. It's just insane what he did. And again, you have to expect it to come down. But fantasy points wise, I mean, he's going to get more targets. He has to get more targets. He got nowhere near. I mean, what was it, 89 targets? You have to think that they're going to throw the ball more than the 455 attempts. Again, that's extremely low. Average is 550. So add 50, 60 attempts to their team. Give 15 to 20 more to A.J. Brown. And his yardage isn't going to be – his yards per catch won't be as high as it's been. Like I said, 20 is insane, but give him down to 14 or 15 because he's just extremely explosive. He just looks great when you watch him move. You just want to watch. You just want to, stare and just say, hey, what's the next thing you're going to do? Because it's just crazy how he had 8 touchdowns just in that short span of the 10 games that he had with Tannehill. Because that's where most of his production all came from, was that last 10 games when Tannehill was there. So a lot to come from him. He's currently going as the wide receiver 16, so right around the range of Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton. So
A.J. Brown, DJ Shark. Who would you rather have?
A.J. Brown.
I'd probably rather have A.J. Brown. Yeah, the ceiling. That's the problem in this level with A.J. Brown is you put him up next to these guys like Cortland Sutton. A.J. Brown's got a higher ceiling. Robert Woods. A.J. Brown's got a higher ceiling. Keenan Allen. Adam Thielen, he doesn't. Cooper Kupp, more touchdown dependent, I guess. I probably would still have Kupp. But then you got Calvin Ridley and A.J. Brown. For me, I think they both have really high ceilings. I love Calvin Ridley. So who would you rather have there, Calvin Ridley or A.J. Brown?
Calvin Ridley, just because of that
Calvin Ridley.
I feel like that offense is going to be more explosive.
Yeah, there's a chance they both could see the same amount of targets. But I agree with you there that I think that Calvin Ridley's a shot for more yards, more options, better ability against less coverage. Even everybody in that area. I mean, Adam Thielen is the only number 1 wide receiver in that range. Like I said, Thielen, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, Robert Woods. Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver 1 right now, but there's a chance Judy comes in and changes it around. So A.J. Brown, there's just probably got the most questions out of those five. Tannehill, like we said, probably a late round guy that I draft. Same thing that we were talking about with, Gardner Minshew range. Just keep him down to 14th, 15th, 16th round, or even possibly even free agency. May go undrafted. You said your piece on Derrick Henry. Anybody else you want to talk about? Jonnu Smith, is he a breakout this year? Is he any chance for, tight end one?
No.
Not
tight end
sorry,
one.
a tight end one.
Yeah, a tight end one. I think there's definitely a chance. And when we say breakout, I don't think he's gonna be like a top 5 tight end type of breakout. I think breakout, he's just gonna get more in this, probably like 65 to 75 kind of target type of year, and I don't think it's gonna be anything crazy, but I guess breakout in terms of tight end. Breakout where he could be a back end tight end one for sure.
Yeah, Tannehill does well, at least last season him and Jonnu was injured a little bit, but they seem to have a little bit of a connection when they were together. So I'm excited to see what he can do, especially over the middle of the field. Who's winning the division, guys?
That's tough.
I don't think the Titans are. Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely go with Houston or the Titans.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I got the Colts. So I find it – well, the big reason we talked about their schedule being easy is, they play these 6 teams, and I think you line them up against Jacksonville, that's 2 wins. You line them up against Houston, it's going to be fun to watch. I think Tennessee probably squeaks out close to the 2. Same thing – or not Tennessee, I'm sorry. Indianapolis against Houston. But I think against Indianapolis against Tennessee, I think they'll run away with it there too. So they could have.
You talk about how easy the schedule that this division is playing. I'm just looking at odd makers in Vegas, and the over/under for the Colts is 8.5. The Titans is 8.5, Texans 7.5, and the Jaguars is 5.
For wins?
Wins, yeah, over/under.
Skepticism too, yeah, from the new team.
Yeah.
Or from the new quarterback coming in. I like I said, I think I would hit the over on that. I'm an over guy. They play they are at Chicago. They're playing against listen to the first 4 games. You're at Jacksonville, home against Minnesota, home against the Jets, at Chicago, at Cleveland versus Cincinnati. I mean, you should be 4-2 at least.
Wait, they're going to be 3-3, right?
That could be. Then they got their bye. Then they play Detroit. And then it gets a little tougher. Baltimore, Tennessee, Green Bay, then Tennessee again. But I don't know. They end with Jacksonville. They have division games. I think that 10 or 11 could definitely be possible. But that will wrap up the AFC South for us, complete the AFC in general. We are going to move on to our final division, the NFC South. So
probably one of the more fun divisions.
I would agree with that. I always love every season watching these division games on TV. A lot of times they're Sunday, Monday night football games, and they like you said, they put up points. They're exciting. They're fun. You got the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's again crazy to watch because you have 3 of probably the top 10 best quarterbacks we've seen in the last 15 years. Well, not probably. You got Drew Brees and Tom Brady, and then some of the best ever, and then you squeak Matt Ryan in there. You had Cam Newton for a while. Now you get Teddy Bridgewater. But we're gonna start to talk about the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of Teddy Bridgewater, they bring him in from New Orleans as he was the backup there. Matt Rule from Baylor comes in, and he's the new head coach. Ron Rivera left. They revamp everything, brand new culture, brand new team. Joe Brady comes as the offensive coordinator from LSU, that amazing offense that they saw in college that was setting records. So what goes on here with the new Carolina Panthers, guys? Is it the same Carolina Panthers we've seen? Does CMC get his 100-plus targets? Is DJ Moore going to get hyper-targeted? Does Robbie Anderson come in and Curtis Samuel help stretch the field? What do you see here, Eric?
Yeah, man, I think it'll definitely be more of the same for McCaffrey. maybe not getting 116 receptions, but that's just insane. But I mean, definitely over 100 targets for him, and more. I think he'll finish as the number one running back again. Clearly, I mean, Saquon will push for it, but it'll be closer. I think McCaffrey gets it though, just because. To me, the only other one there is DJ Moore in this offense. I mean, it's going to be CMC and DJ Moore. I'm not a huge. I like Robbie Anderson, but I mean, we've seen what he is. Then you got Curtis Samuel there as well. They'll be fighting for targets. I don't necessarily think DJ Moore would get hyper targeted, but he's going to get a lot of targets. But again, yeah, it's going to be more. It's just going to be DJ Moore and CMC for me.
That's really
all I'm excited about.
My question is Teddy Bridgewater, going to be aggressive at all in this offense? What I've classified Teddy Bridgewater in over the years, I know he was injured, but he was more of a game manager, especially when he was in Minnesota. Then he got hurt. We only seen him play a couple games here in New Orleans. Is he gonna hurt the wide receiving core here? I mean, they have such a good young wide receiving core on paper. I mean, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson. I mean, those are three great young players. If Bridgewater doesn't take the shots on the field, those three are in trouble fantasy-wise.
And that's why for me, wide receiver-wise, I'm only interested in DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And I guess that would give him a good shot to get hyper-targeted. But yeah, it just depends what can Bridgewater really do.
And Curtis Samuel does. Now that you say that, Curtis Samuel does scare me a little bit too. He did have 105 targets last season. He only brought in 54 receptions. I mean, I would have to look at all those throws, see which ones were catchable, which ones weren't. But that seems a little that he only caught 50% of the balls that were thrown on him. That seems a little low to me.
But don't forget, they had Kyle Allen. I mean, Kyle Allen was literally one of the worst.
Yeah, that's why I said I would have to look at all the throws.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I assumed what was catchable or what wasn't catchable, before I give them too much crap for it. But it just seems a little low if you just look at the numbers.
Yeah, and I like a lot of what you guys said with a few points here. Bridgewater will come in. He is definitely a game manager. But don't forget, his second season with Minnesota when they had a great defense, he was 11-5. They went to the playoffs. Unfortunately, he got injured after that. But he was able to do it. He was able to have a good record with a good team that was able to run the ball. Obviously, with Adrian Peterson, Stephon Diggs was their number one there, but nobody had over 100 targets on that wide receiver core. That's going to be a lot different here. Carolina is a fast-paced team. They ran some of those plays in the NFL. Like I said, Kyle Allen came in, did not do well, but you had Will Grier and Cam Newton. They threw the ball one of the most time, some of the highest attempts in the NFL. So I think DJ Moore is going to be treated like the Michael Thomas of New Orleans. He's not Michael Thomas. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but he might be.
What'd you say? He's Michael Thomas?
But he might be. Now, but really, he's just so talented. He's still 23 years old, third year in the league. He had, like you said, 135 targets last year, almost 1,200 yards. It was just 4 touchdowns that really knocked him out of, being a really high wide receiver last season. But he's still extremely good in PPR. But my point being with Teddy Bridgewater and Michael Thomas, when Teddy Bridgewater was in because Brees was hurt, Michael Thomas's production stayed the same. It was on par with targets, catches, yards, downs. It was not much different. I mean,
you see all the great wide receivers. It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. They still are great. I mean, look what Hopkins did all those years in Houston.
I agree with you, and that. But my point on saying with that is the fact that he's still targeted at number one wide receiver because they didn't really have amazing options other than that. Like if he had a great number two as well, would he still have targeted Thomas the same? If he felt that comfortable. So that's why I think he's going to come over in a shortened off season and he's going to use what they love best, and that's DJ Moore. He's great. He's their big receiver that runs and plays very similar to Michael Thomas. They're very, very good route runners, and they catch the ball. They usually go down. They're not crazy with their yards after catch, but they get a lot of targets. They get a lot of catches. They'll get that 10, 11, 12 yards per catch range, and they'll get you 7, 8 touchdowns. So if he had even if he had 7 touchdowns, that would give him 3 more touchdowns. he would have been wide receiver 9, just with 3 more touchdowns. So he had 135 targets. I think he can get close to 160. I have him as my wide receiver 6. I don't think that that's crazy to think at all. I think McCaffrey's targets 142 is just it's wild. That's coming down. Like you said, Curtis Samuel getting 105. That might be Robbie Anderson or Curtis Samuel range. And then, Greg Olsen having his 82 when he was there, that could be that could definitely be Robbie Anderson. So I think the targets can shift and they're going to throw 600 plus again. I think now, but Keenan, what I want to talk about, your bold prediction was that Christian McCaffrey wouldn't be a top 5 back. So are you still drafting him if you had the number 1 overall pick today?
Just because it's a bold prediction, I'm not gonna not draft Christian McCaffrey. There's just some factors where I think that can hurt Christian McCaffrey. He had a great year last year. I don't see that being repeated. And second of all, it's just there's so many question marks in this offense. It's a new coaching staff, new quarterback, a new wide receiver in Robbie Anderson, a new tight end. There's so many questions. I don't know how they're going to use any of these players. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to use McCaffrey and DJ Moore, but it depends on how this offense is going to flow and the play calls are going to happen. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey obviously at 1, but I still don't think he finishes in the top. I mean, let me reword that. He's gonna probably finish in the top 5, but in my bold prediction, I'm just gonna back it up and say he probably won't.
So top 2. That's what I want to bring up though. If you say his bold prediction that he may be out of the top 5, and you're still comfortable with 1,
He's kind of screwed me because I had him being a top five back, and now if he doesn't play, and now the Sanders issue also with
it's just a bold prediction. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I know, but that's why I was asking. Top 2. Can you do you think there's a chance he won't finish top 2? Because, like you said, I'm just playing this world because he had over 400 touches. If he doesn't get 140 targets and he gets 110 targets, so say he loses 30. I mean, he's down now. You're talking almost 40, 50 points just reception wise.
I have him for 110. I think.
I had him at 102 receptions, right? Or rushing attempts. No, I'm sorry. Let me look at
how many
targets?
Yeah, targets. I have 102 targets, 240 attempts receiving.
So that's a lot. I mean, how many fantasy points do you have him for in PPR? Because, I mean, I know he killed everybody by almost 160 last year.
Listen, it was just a bold prediction, Antonio. We don't need it.
I'm just making a case more for I'm making a case for the Saquon Barkleys of the world, the Ezekiel Elliott's. Because Ezekiel Elliott's going to see more carries than him. And if Zeke sees 70, 80 targets, he's going to get more touchdowns than McCaffrey.
If he's not in the top 5, everyone's going to call me a genius. If he isn't in the top 5, I'm just going to be like, hey, guys, it's a bold prediction. What do you want from me? So either way, I'm good. I covered my butt.
Yeah, you're good regardless. I just want to pick your opinion.
Don't come at me like that.
I will say, for me, he's my number 1. I have his targets coming down to 110, but I still got him in a full PPR league. I still have him at 378 points. I still think it's going to be a great year. At least this year, next year. But I mean, eventually, with that amount of work, that big of a workload, it's going to come down. I mean, he's going to hit a wall eventually. It's been proven in the years. Like these guys, they can't sustain more than 3-4 years of that kind of workload.
My whole thing on McCaffrey is it was just a crazy year last year for him. Like we've never seen it before. I could see him, taking a huge hit into where he is out of the top maybe 2.
Yeah, almost like the same argument for Lamar Jackson. He could still be 1 or 2, but his efficiency and his production is going to go down a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you there.
But that's the crazy thing, I think, is, like I said, I still have him with 30 less targets and obviously less yards and everything, and he's still, for me, over 2,000 combined yards. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to
I have him at 1,700 yards.
I just feel like it's so hard to not.
How many touchdowns do you have him at?
15 total.
I have him at 14.
Yeah, I have him at 15 as well.
Oh no, I have him at 13. I'm sorry. I have 9 rushing and 4 receiving.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig more into him next week with the rankings. Obviously being the number one, but more statistical wise, we'll talk about that. But a team that's going to fill the stat sheet is the Atlanta Falcons. They do it every single season. This year is Matt Ryan's leap year. We'll explain a little more on that. But the Falcons are coming in not having the best of years, finishing 5-10-1, finishing last in the division. They were a tale of two seasons, of course. They were 1-7 in the first half, and then finished 6-2. Or I'm sorry, they were second in the division, not fourth. I don't know why. But so they were 7. I think that they're going to act like I said. It's Matt Ryan's leap year. It's every other season where he'll finish either top 10 or outside of top 10. And this year, I think it's going to be a top 5, pretty close finish. And it's a second year with his offensive coordinator, which tends to really be good for him. Obviously, a lot of pieces around here. Austin Hooper left. Mohamed Sanu left. They bring in Hayden Hurst. They bring in Todd Gurley. What's going to happen, guys, with Atlanta? Are they going to be that first half Atlanta that was 1-7 and they lost a lot of close games. Don't get me wrong. They were putting up points. But are they going to be that team that's so close they can't execute and win, or are they going to be the team at the end, second half, that was winning and Matt Ryan wasn't doing as well? But what do you see happening here, Keenan?
Did they finish last in the division last year?
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It was second. They were 7-9.
Okay. Well, I mean, Matt Ryan is looking for 4,000 yards for the 10th season this year. And like you said, he has that off-year, good year rotation going. I could see more of the second half Atlanta Falcons of last year just because, I mean, they just have so much talent. Calvin Ridley, we're always talking about him. You and I like him. I'm sure Eric likes him too. Julio Jones, one of the best, wide receivers in the league. They upgraded a running back, hopefully if he can stay healthy, with Todd Gurley, who will replace Devontae Freeman. And they did lose Hooper, but they also replaced him with Hayden Hurst. So, I mean, this offense has so much weapons. I don't see them, I see them making the playoffs this year. I don't see them winning the division because what Tampa can possibly do, but I can see them having a wild card. And like I said, I see Matt Ryan having that, like you said, leap year where he is going to have a great year this year.
Yeah, the leap year is real. Everything just points to them having a great season. Like you said, they added Todd Gurley. They got rid of Hooper, but they added Hayden Hurst, who they gave up a second-round pick for. And, nowadays, giving up a second round, I guess always, but giving up a second that's a lot of, that's a lot to give up if you think about it. Especially when you could have, just re-signed Hooper. I know it wasn't easy with the cap space and everything, but I don't know, going from Hooper to him, I'm not worried about it. Hayden Hurst, he was a first-round draft pick?
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
He drafted him before they drafted
Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
And Lamar.
And Lamar, yeah.
And Lamar, yeah. So, he's going to be good. And, with Calvin Ridley healthy, their offensive line, hopefully going to stay healthy for the year. So that's going to be a lot better. And, yeah, it's going to be the leap year. I think he's going to catapult up back into that top 6-7 quarterback range, and maybe even higher.
For a sleeper that I don't think anyone's really talking about, he might be the more undervalued wide receiver is Russell Gage. I don't know if you guys have
I wanted to talk about him, so I'm glad you're bringing him up.
I don't know if you guys have your predictions pulled up. I just lost mine. Hold on one second. Let me scroll back up. I have him getting 86 targets and 56 receptions and 4 touchdowns. Just because, if he's gonna have that huge leap year, they're gonna need a wide receiver 3 to make a impact on this offense. And you're obviously Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are gonna be key factors for every defense to stop that offense. Russell Gage, is he a slot receiver?
They do use him in the slot, yes.
Yeah, I could see him having a great year, and if you're looking at getting a late sleeper, I'm telling you right now, you might be able to pick him up in free agency after the draft, unless you have one of us in your league. But that you have one of us in your league, you're not winning your league. So
Yeah, you definitely can get him undrafted. Currently going as a wide receiver 84, overall 389th. So you should have no problem grabbing him. He's young. He's 23 or 24 now. He's just someone that's always kind of stepped in and filled the role for them. Like you said, plays in the slot. He had 74 targets last year. I don't know. That's a little ambitious, more ambitious than I have him for. I got him for about 60 targets, but I also have Hurst, Julio, and Calvin Ridley.
How many targets do you have for Hurst?
I have 98 for Hurst.
See, I have 81.
Yeah, I have Hurst.
I have 102 for Hurst.
Hooper came in at 97.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, well, Hooper came in at 97. And
Yeah.
I think, like you said, they traded a second for him. They really want to use him in the offense.
No, we are all over the place on him.
Well, I mean, Austin Hooper also got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he only played – that's a good point. I mean, he only played 13 games. So, I mean, imagine how many in the game, he was on pace to be well over 100 targets. So, I have Calvin Ridley taking the replacement of those. I have Calvin Ridley getting almost 130 and Julio seeing 150. So, between those three guys, I've got, close to 60-ish%, 65%. So, the rest is going between, the running backs and any other tight end. And then you got Gage, Justin Hardy, those guys. So, I think that he's a good call, Russell Gage, for a late-round PPR sleeper. But I want to mention real quick on that leap year that we keep referencing so you don't think we're crazy. So every second year of his offensive coordinator, which he's had 4 of them, by the way. So the second year for Matt Ryan, he's finished 8th.
He's had 4 offense coordinators in 9 seasons.
Yeah, it's crazy how often they leave and go get better jobs. He had Mike Mularkey first. He left and went and got the Titans job. He had Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter left, went to Tampa Bay job. He had Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan went to San Francisco. Now he's got Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian went back to Alabama or USC, wherever he goes. Now he's got Dirk Cutter again.
Matt Ryan is getting offensive coordinators paid.
But that's the thing with him is that's why the first year is always a struggle. People offensive coordinator, he'd be a top 10 quarterback every single year. So like his second year with all these coordinators, he was finished 8th, then 15th, but Julio was injured, Roddy White was injured, Steven Jackson was injured, everybody was injured. And then he finished 2nd with Shanahan, 2nd with Sarkisian, and now he's got Dirk Cutter, where the second half of the season they were 6-2. I mean, I think he's going to come in, like I said, he's going to be 5th or 6th. They're going to throw the ball a hell of a lot. Calvin Ridley is going to make an ascension. Some fun Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones stat. Julio Jones was drafted by Atlanta when Roddy White was 30. Well, Calvin Ridley was drafted by Atlanta when Julio Jones was 29. So that's pretty close. Now let's listen to Julio Jones' second-year stats. 128 targets, 79 catches, 1,198 yards, and 10 touchdowns. You hear that there? Let's listen to what Calvin Ridley was on pace for because he only had 13 games last year. He was on pace for 114 targets, 78 catches, 1,065, and 9 touchdowns. Third year, Julio broke out, was crazy. I mean, he fractured his foot, but his 4th year he broke out. This is Calvin Ridley's 3rd year. I think this is the year he's going to get a lot more targets. He's going to get 1,300-plus yards, double-digit touchdowns. He's going to be a wide receiver 1. He's going to ascend, guys. Julio is going to get his own, but you need to get Calvin Ridley. He's being drafted.
I don't think Ridley's going to get a ton more targets. You said he was on pace for 114, correct? I actually have him down for 122. The difference with the situations I have is that when Julio broke out, Roddy White was not as good as Julio is right now, if that makes sense. Like, Julio Jones is still elite. He's still a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And that's why
it's funny that you say that, though, because that's not fully the case. Because the season that Julio Jones had gotten injured, which would have been his 3rd season, Roddy White still had 1,300 yards. Like he still played in 2013. 2013 he got injured, but he had a really good year. But the 2 years before that, he still had over 1,300 yards and 7-8 touchdowns. He was doing really well. The 4th year, though, when Julio broke out, he had 125 targets, 80 catches, 921 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So Julio took over. Now, at that same point, though, they weren't throwing the ball at that moment that much comparatively. So that's why I think that Calvin Ridley's going to get those targets to take that leap because, he was on pace for 114. But don't forget that 8 of those games, he had Austin Hooper and Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like dissing on Ridley. I still think he's going to be a wide receiver one, more so though because the touchdowns.
Yeah, I appreciate the.
How many targets do you think Ridley, I guess, is going to get?
I have him for 131.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's only 9 more than me, so it's not like the crazy difference.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. But don't forget double-digit touchdowns, something Julio really doesn't get. But that's enough about the wide receivers. Let's talk about Todd Gurley. He came in, obviously, amazing running back for a while with the Rams. Worries about his knee. He's still only 25. Are you worried about his knee? Is he a running back? Is he a running back one for you this season? Being drafted still at the back end, the second, early third. What are you doing with Todd Gurley?
I'm, when the offseason started first, I was trying to get rid of him on all my dynasty teams, and no one really wanted him. Everyone was nervous about his injuries and whatnot. As the offseason went on, people started asking what I want for Todd Gurley, and I want a lot for Todd Gurley now. You had your chance back in March to get Todd Gurley, but now I'm thinking that Todd Gurley is going to be back to the Todd Gurley of 2 years ago, as long as he can stay healthy. Just think about it. There's no training camp. There was no off-season workouts. There was no preseason games. There was a very light training camp. He played limited last year. If Todd Gurley doesn't come back to being Todd Gurley this year, he's never going to be what he was a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be what he was a few years ago, but I still think he definitely could finish as a back-end RB1. Potentially higher even, too, depending on – I mean, it really depends. I mean, I think there's going to be still an issue with the knee. I mean – you saw last year. He was different last year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be back to like what he was. I worded that wrong for sure. I don't think he's going to be what he was a few years ago. He's not going to be the third best running back in the league or first best running back in the league. But I can see him being a top 10.
Yeah. I definitely think he's going to be a little bit better than last year for sure. Especially, I mean, there's nobody else there behind him. And they got a better offensive line there in Atlanta. I mean, arguably a better offense overall. It's close, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I like him for this year for sure. But I think more back end RB1, top 15 for sure.
So
it depends on the touchdowns. I mean, it all depends on the touchdowns, on how many touchdowns he's going to get there, because he could be another one who's easily could see double-digit touchdowns, in my opinion. But at the same time, he might not.
So we were talking about Leonard Fournette earlier. Would you rather have Todd Gurley or Leonard Fournette?
Probably.
It's even for me. Don't matter. Flip a coin.
That's close, but I think I'd go Fournette just because the receiving game. I mean, like I said, I think Fournette gets 100 targets like he did last year, whereas I have Gurley in the 60s. So I mean that's potentially 40 more targets. What he could do with that. But at the same time, I think Gurley scores more touchdowns. So it's close, like Keenan said.
So James Conner or Todd Gurley?
Todd Gurley, just because, I mean, they both have injury concerns, but I mean, I'd go with Gurley's injury concerns over James Conner. But I do love James Conner. If James Conner plays a full 16, he's going to be better than Gurley.
I think Todd Gurley as well, just because I feel like Todd Gurley's going to get a lot of red zone touches, and I have him at double-digit touchdowns altogether. I have him at 14 touchdowns, 10 rushing and 4 receiving.
That's got to put him pretty high then for your RBs.
Yeah, I got him at number 1, baby. Come on. You got to get McCaffrey out of there.
Yeah, someone has to kick McCaffrey out.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. But no, I have him at right now. I have him at.
We'll find out next week.
Yeah, you're right. We'll find out next week. Is right.
Say it, a little preview.
Yeah, so I want to just talk about that real quick. I mean, I think Gurley's going to do really well. I think you guys hit a lot of the nails on the head there. I think he's going to get over 250 touches. They're going to utilize him. They're going to run on the ground. I like Hayden Hurst a lot. I don't know if, like I said, we're giving him a lot of targets, and we're expecting to have him have a lot come out from this offense, just like we're going to do with Todd Gurley. Like, you're plugging him into a high-powered offense. The volume's going to be there. You're hoping they're going to keep trucking down the field. It's going to obviously not stack the box for Todd Gurley, which was something he saw a lot on the Rams. It could be a revelation for him. It really could. He could wind up being a league winner for people and being a top 5 back. I mean, if Devonta Freeman,
definitely could happen.
It could. If Devonta Freeman could do that just a short 4 years ago, I mean, like you said, it's in the touchdowns, Keenan. I mean, it's in the touchdowns and the catches. That's where Devonta Freeman did. It had over 60, 70 catches, double-digit touchdowns. I mean, there's a shot.
The thing I think about, though, is I guess the reason why I would put him towards like a back-end RB1 is not necessarily because I think he doesn't have as good of a year. It's just more so because, like I stated earlier, I feel like the running backs this year, at least the top end, is just there's a lot of really good running backs, especially in that 5 to 12, 13 range. And that's the only reason why I worry about him actually hitting top 5 potential.
Yeah, the knee could go bad. He could get injured. I don't see him getting outperformed. That's the thing. Like, people think that his floor could be pretty low. I don't see Ito Smith or Quadri Allison taking him over. So I think it's a Todd Gurley show all season. It's just your efficiency may not be as high as you want.
Oh yeah, definitely not worried about anyone taking over there for him.
Yeah,
not even close. It's just more so like I just don't think he's not gonna get anywhere near as much work as the top 4. He's not going to get nearly as many carries as Derrick Henry. He could get as many touches as Derrick Henry, but not nearly as many carries. And I think, Derrick Henry will have more touchdowns. But yeah, he could potentially. That offense is great. So, I mean, there's definitely potential for top 5 there. But cool. Like I said, just because of how good all the other running backs are, that's why I just have him closer to the back end RB1.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. And I think with that, that'll cause us to move on to the New Orleans Saints. All right, so the Saints.
Same old with them, right?
Same old. Finishing first in the division, 13-3. Like we mentioned, Bridgewater played 6 games. They didn't really miss a beat. And Breeze is going to be Breeze. He's going to kill it. Kamara is going to kill it. Michael Thomas, we know he's a number 1 wide receiver. There's not much to talk about with him. He's consistent as they come. He might lose some targets, maybe 10 to 15, 20 targets, but he's still going to be up there for that number 1. Somebody I do want to talk about, though, is going to be Alvin Kamara. They still have Latavius Murray there. He still took a good amount of workload. Kamara claimed he was battling an injury nearly all season. It looked at points that we could see that he was, but you've got a man that's had 81 catches every season he's been in the league. PPR monster, currently going as an RB4. Is he someone that can get more touches now, more carries, double-digit touchdowns? Like, can he possibly become that RB2 or 3, and maybe you should be thanking him as a value at 4 or 5 or 6?
Absolutely. I mean, you said it yourself. He's got 80 receptions every season since he's been in the league.
81 each year. Such an odd thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see him taking that next step. I mean, and especially if there's an injury holding him back. I think it wasn't 81 receptions in 3 years. Has he been in the league for 3 seasons now?
Yeah, this will be his 4th year.
4th year. I think he's gotten 81 in all 3 seasons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, no, is that what you said? I'm sorry. But if he was battling an injury last year, I mean, who would you rather have on the field? Is a healthy Alvin Kamara or a healthy Latavius Murray more? I mean,
definitely want Kamara. And
I definitely have Kamara. And if he was battling an injury, I'm assuming the Saints knew about it and they were, keeping him out of some plays or on a pitch count.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a much better season. I think it was clear that he was battling an injury. I mean, he missed time because of it. And yeah, he was different. I don't know, and not only that, but I think his touchdowns go up for sure this year. Um, he was another one like Fournette that was struggling with the rushing touchdowns, and yeah, he's gonna go up in that. He's gonna be healthier. This team's still gonna be great. It's gonna run through him and Michael Thomas. And yeah, I know Breeze said that he could see a Traquan breakout, but they got Emmanuel Sanders there too. And like I said, it's mainly going to run through Michael Thomas. So I mean, he could have a breakout, but I think a breakout isn't. It could still be a decent year, but not really. Not really anything like super fancy relevant. More of a wide receiver 4 or 5-ish type of year.
The thing I'm impressed about Traquan Smith, he caught 10 touchdown passes on 69 targets. That's really, really impressive. And
he's got a great deep route.
Yeah, so if he can beat out Sanders for that, and maybe even Ted Ginn, who's to say that he can't beat out Ted Ginn in the Sanders for the number 2 spot? I mean, it's probably highly unlikely, but I mean he.
Well, again, yeah, they got Traquan Smith. Ginn's gone now.
Oh, Ginn is gone. Yeah, so
he's over in Chicago.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see him beating out Sanders. Maybe not to start the season, but as the season goes on, I could see Smith becoming that number 2 option there.
Yeah, I like Emmanuel Sanders. Just the way he plays, I love the tenacity, and obviously come back from that Achilles and still having a great year. And I don't know if, he's gonna be able to have great production that people would be hoping for as the number 2 for the wide receiver for Drew Brees. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be that great. I think maybe like an 80 targets is maybe where he'd be looking at 4 or 5 targets a game. Then you have Jared Cook, who he also has a high touchdown rate. I think he had like 7 touchdowns on 70 catches last year, or 70 targets. So you got to expect that's probably going to come down a little bit. They drafted Adam Troutman, a big tight end who could help with some targets in the red zone. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're a great team. They produce a lot, and they're always efficient, and they can only improve, and that's kind of just a wonderful thing about the Saints.
Do you think Smith or Sanders can get 70-plus targets this year?
Yeah, I think Sanders will get around 80. Traquan will probably get around the 60 or 70 range.
Well, the only reason I say that is the last person to do that besides Michael Thomas in a New Orleans offense was Ted Ginn back in 2017. So it's been 2 full seasons since someone else gotten 70-plus targets. So
yeah, and besides that was wide receiver.
Yeah, wide receiver.
But I do agree with. I think that it's going to happen. And like we said, I think Michael Thomas's targets are going to come down a little bit, which is going to transfer over to more of the wide receivers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I just want to talk about Kamara again real quick because he was on pace to do better than he's done, at least rushing wise for sure. But his touchdowns were low, like we said, and his yards per catch was extremely low. I think that's a lot where that injury was really coming into play.
I was just about to mention that.
Yeah, he only had 6.5 yards per catch. His career is up in the 9s. So if you give him that, he would have had over 800 yards a catch, or 800 yards in the air, and you would have been looking at him right now. Wow, you did that in 14 games. Your 16-game pace, you're going to have the best year of your career. So
and not only that, but like I mentioned earlier about the touchdowns, look at his rookie year. He had 13. 2 years ago in 2018, he had 18 touchdowns, and then he goes down to 6 this year. I mean, obviously he missed 2 games and whatnot, but I mean, it was just clear he just wasn't the same running back. He just wasn't the same player.
Still finishes the RB9.
Yeah.
Yet he's going as the 5th running back behind Delvin Cook. I'm sorry, I'm not on board with that. He's my RB4. I've been battling between him and Zeke for my RB3.
Yeah.
But it's just tough. Again, we'll see.
I'm drafting next week in our big league at 3rd. I'm taking Kamara unless someone decides to take him at 1 or 2. But I'm definitely taking Kamara at 3.
Yeah, I think 90 catches is definitely on the table for him. It's going to be a really good year for him, fully healthy.
Double-digit touchdowns 1,700 combined yards potentially.
That's why I said like he could really go for that number one. Aaron Jones did it as number 2 with 19 touchdowns. If Kamara can get 15, 16, and like you just said, 1,700 yards, I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit. He can get 1,000. He is one of those players in the league
absolutely.
that could be 1,000. And then you're talking like, wow, he had what McCaffrey did last year.
All right, so that's one player that's going to be ahead of McCaffrey.
There you go.
4 more.
I am really, really excited to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We really, I think we engulfed a lot of what the Saints can do. We know they're great. We kind of mentioned that over and over. We're beating a dead horse. But the Buccaneers finished 7-9 last year, and it's sorry. Let me talk about that. They finished 7-9 last year, and Jameis Winston had over 5,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns. Evans and Godwin were both top 5 wide receivers. Like, yeah, he had his 30 interceptions, but it's just crazy to think that they were still 7-9 with that. They had a shot at the playoffs. They finished, like I said, second in the division. So with Tom Brady now coming over here, the greatest quarterback ever, you're obviously going to see some regression in arm capability because Jameis Winston just rocketed everywhere. But I don't think you're going to see 5,000 yards either. But you're definitely not seeing 30 interceptions. So what is Tom Brady going to do for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin? Who's going to benefit from that? And I think let's just talk it out real quick here. I know we're kind of divided a little bit, Keenan, you and I. I'm going to let you talk about Chris Godwin, but I want to start first with Mike Evans. We'll let Eric be the mediator. And let's just, who was the last wide receiver that Tom Brady had that was a big body, can catch downfield and quick and a good red zone threat?
Gronk? As
a tight end, yeah, absolutely. I would give you that one there. But for a wide receiver, Randy Moss. Exactly. Thank you. No, hear me out. I'm not calling him Randy Moss. But you're talking about a guy that's had 1,000 yards every single year.
He's Randy Moss. I love Mike Evans.
He's had double-digit touchdowns multiple times. I don't understand if we can sit here and say, hey, you did all this with Jameis Winston, that you can't do that with Tom Brady. I get it. He's 42. I understand that. But he still has 30-plus touchdown potential. He still has 4,500-yard potential. And that's where I think Mike Evans is going to come into play. He's going to get 140 targets in my mind. I think he's going to wind up being the better wide receiver than Chris Godwin. I think he's going to get 12 to 13 touchdowns. This offense is going to be unstoppable. Bruce Arians loves to throw the football. Anytime that he is in that first season with a new quarterback, they set career records somehow, some way. Manning did it, threw a lot of touchdowns, also threw a lot of picks. Carson Palmer did it, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of picks. Andrew Luck, same thing. And then we saw Jameis Winston do it. Tom Brady might throw the most interceptions he's thrown of his career. But that's also like 15, 14. A lot for Tom Brady. Nothing near what Jameis Winston did. Chris Godwin is a different kind of slot receiver. And, I think he's going to obviously jump in real well, and Tom Brady's going to do great for him. But I think he's going to fall in love a little bit with what Mike Evans can do more for him down the field. Keenan?
All right, so you bring up Randy Moss being the last big wide receiver for Tom Brady. How many Super Bowls did Randy Moss win with Tom Brady?
How many Super Bowls does Tom Brady already have?
How many Super Bowls did a slot receiver like Julian Edelman win with Tom Brady? So now the big debate is who's going to play in the slot more? Is it Godwin or Evans? I'm just looking at their numbers. Last year, Godwin had 68 targets as a slot receiver. Let me scroll down here. Evans had 25 targets as a slot receiver. Obviously, Godwin's going to probably play more in the slot, and if Tom, I don't know if Tom Brady likes the slot wide receivers better than the outside threat more. Then just look at Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. I mean, he loved those guys. Then obviously Godwin's going to have a better year because Godwin's going to play more in the slot because what he did last year. I'm assuming that he plays more in the slot. Also, with Godwin coming off a career high in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, I don't see how they don't try to try to use him more and see what he can do more. We already know what Mike Evans is. I mean, I think we know what Godwin is too, but I feel like Godwin is going to be that more explosive player where he's going to be that slot wide receiver where you can throw him a 5-10 yard pass where he can take it 90 yards. Where I feel like if Evans catches a 5-10 yard pass, he might not be taking it a house where Godwin has that breakout potential.
He'll just have to knock over a defender to get to the house instead of Godwin running past the guy.
Yeah. Well, that's
so
I'm not saying Evans is a slouch by any I'm not trying to kill Mike Evans here because Big E will kill me but I just think Godwin's going to have a better year.
Yeah, and that's I guess same thing on this side. I'm not knocking Evans, and we're probably splitting hairs here because they could be apart in targets by 5 or 10. But the thing with him was like you said, 59% of his routes came in the slot. He was second in slot yards per game and fifth in fantasy points from the slot. So we know, like you said, that Tom Brady loves his slot receivers. By the way, Wes Welker was on that Randy Moss team. Who did better?
It's not just receivers that he loves in the slot, though. He loves tight ends and running backs also.
Right, but is it the system or was it Belichick? Because you said, did he win a ring with Randy Moss? Well, guess what? Randy Moss outperformed Wes Welker, who was on that team there. They both did well.
Yeah, but I think as the time has gone and Tom Brady has aged, I feel like a wide receiver like Randy Moss will not benefit Tom Brady.
Let me kind of mediate here, like Antonio said. So, Keenan, you might like this because I do have Chris Godwin finishing higher. I still think they're both going to be fantastic. Both easily can be wide receiver ones, probably will be. It's not even about that. I think they're going to be fantastic. But the reason why I think I have Chris Godwin ahead of him is, like you said, Antonio. You said Tom Brady doesn't have the same kind of arm strength as Jameis Winston has. He doesn't have the same arm capability. He's not going to be chucking the ball downfield as much as Jameis Winston was. And when you look at Chris Godwin's ADOT, it's 10.4 compared to Mike Evans, which is 15. I mean, compared to what you just said earlier, Tom Brady is most likely going to be going for those shorter targets more often than not.
Get him, Eric. Get him.
But I still love Mike Evans. I don't want this to be.
It's not, but the thing is, you're not
very close.
You can't get them both. That's the thing. Like, you're not drafting them both. So that's why it's a big discussion I want to have because our listeners are faced with that decision of do I want Godwin or do I want Evans?
Straight up.
And that's where I'm like, yeah. One more thing I just want to mention is Godwin was the first wide receiver in 5 years to finish in the top 5 in PPR without at least 130 targets. So you got to hope he's going to get over the 130 targets. They're going to be real close to that. But he's a different type of slot receiver. And Brady he's not like a Welker or an Edelman because he's more downfield when it comes to his targets. Like you said, his ADOT's, over 10 yards. Excuse me. But what Evans is going to do with it, he's going to throw the ball up. He trusts Evans. He hasn't had a wide receiver to do that with. He had a tight end, Gronk, that he just threw the ball up and trusted he's going to get up and get it. Even in 2018 when Gronk was horrible, he still did that. That's what he's going to do with Mike Evans. That's what I'm excited to see. And I think he's going to have at least 4 or 5 40-plus yard touchdowns. And that's my final point.
How disappointing is it going to be if Tom Brady just isn't Tom Brady this year? If Father Time finally says, you're done.
The ultimate slap in the face. All right, so there's that discussion for those two wide receivers. We're going to talk quick about Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn, LaShawn McCoy mix-up. They all had some pass-catching problems this week, it sounded like. So Ronald Jones dropping the most with 4 in practice. Take that for what you will. But I'm a Ronald Jones truther here. I've been all offseason. I didn't really care about Keyshawn Vaughn personally. I thought Jones is going to be the guy. He showed a lot of sparks last year. I know people thought, Peyton Barber got the ball more. I get it. But Jones had some fumbling issues, just a few. But Bruce Arians doesn't fly for that. He had some trouble in pass-catching work and as well as pass blocking. Big things he has been working on this whole offseason. Tampa Bay said they've heard the improvements. Eric, who do you think is going to run this backfield?
I wanted it to be Vaughn, but it's definitely going to be Ronald Jones, I think. obviously, clearly Vaughn's been struggling in practice, and it looks like he's the third running back there. I don't think McCoy has really a ton left in the tank to really take a ton away from Ronald Jones. He's still going to be involved, but it's going to be mostly the Ronald Jones show.
The thing that with the whole drop passes, they all struggled. Even Bruce Arians said it's unacceptable because guess what Tom Brady does? He throws it to his backs a lot, and it's not going to fly there. And I feel like if Ronald Jones or McCoy or Vaughn struggle at catching that ball, they won't be on the field. So we got to keep a close eye.
Who are they going to put on the field, though?
Well, I'm saying if one of them struggle, there's going to be
it's going to be Dare Gubawale.
Yeah.
Honestly, they've talked about him potentially getting some red zone work. I mean, it could be a four-headed nightmare potentially, and that might not bode well for Ronald Jones going in the 5th round. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm a fan. I think they're going to give him the work. He got 3 touchdowns with 20-plus yards called back last year. And he also had quietly over 1,000 total yards. I mean, he did not have a touch at the 1, 2, or 3 yard line after week 4, but still had 5 touches inside the 10-yard line and scored on all of them. So let me rephrase. Let me read that again. So he didn't have. He had 5 touches in the 10-yard line. None of them were at the 1, 2, 3 yard line, and he scored on all of them. How often do you see a back doing that? He had a nose for the red zone. And I think that's why they're going to keep using him. He's elusive. He's quick.
He breaks a tackle 19.8% of the time too.
Yeah, so he was up there in the top. Yeah. He's great, man. I think this is his year to finally shine. And I want to round it up with O.J. Howard and Rob Gronkowski. They're coming back. They're probably going to run some 12 personnel where you got Evans, Gronk, Howard, and Chris Godwin. It's going to be super scary on the field. I don't know who's going to get the ball sometimes, but what do you think about O.J. Howard or Gronk? Who do you like more? Gronk's currently being drafted a bit higher than O.J. Howard.
Hey, I'm not going to reach for Gronk. Someone's going to take Gronk way ahead of where I'm going to want him.
Yeah, I think I'm going O.J. Howard. I mean, there's even, I believe, reports out of camp saying that it looks like O.J. Howard is going to be getting more targets there, and they're more so going to be using Gronk on, important plays and probably in the red zone and certain things like that. I mean, I know Arians is saying Gronk looks like the old Gronk, but
can't wait.
It's practice. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. Gronk's going 9th, and Howard is 24th. I mean, I know it's one tight end league, but there's a chance that O.J. Howard could get 400 or 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. He doesn't need a lot of catches to get a lot of yards. He has an incredibly high yards per catch for a tight end. He actually had comparisons to Gronkowski coming out as a prospect, and he's an extremely talented player. I think Tom Brady's going to fall in love with him. And like I said, if he gets close to 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, he's borderline tight end 1. And there's a chance somehow that there's a world that we could see that there are 2 tight end 1s and 2 wide receiver 1s on this Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, actually, I guess since I have it right in front of me, I have them very close. O.J. Howard for 43 catches, 559 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and then Gronk for 40 catches, 420 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, they're close. They're right there.
It is, and it doesn't take much.
To think that you said O.J. Howard was tight end 24.
Yeah, he's going as tight end 24 right now.
I mean, I would rather. I mean, I don't want either one of them as my tight end 1.
Yeah,
personally. But if I'm taking one, I'm waiting on Howard. Easily.
Yeah, I'm taking Howard as my tight end 2 all day, just because of the potential there, and what Antonio just said, that Brady might fall in love with him just because he has the potential to be just like Gronk.
Yeah, and he's young. If you're looking at a Gronk to your right, and then a younger version of what Gronk is, and he's doing better, let Gronk be the distraction.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want him to get his body already beaten as much as it already was, and he doesn't look like he's the same size he was back in 2018.
And that's part of it. I almost feel like I might be too low on O.J. Howard.
I think everybody's too low on O.J. Howard. I'll be honest. I mean, obviously it's the tight end too, but he's done it before. Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski were both tight end 1s. They were top 5 tight ends, I believe, back in 2013, 2012.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Tom Brady gets over 40 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, there is a shot
There's
at
a
that.
bold prediction right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, for real though. I mean, if you think Mike Evans can get 12 to 13 touchdowns, Godwin can potentially get 9 or 10 touchdowns. Then you got both Gronk and OJ Howard. What if they potentially both combined get double-digit touchdowns?
I mean, but exactly between the four of them, for him to hit 30 touchdowns, that it just almost seems like it's easy. That's why, I mean, even Tom Brady himself is going. I mean, he's not even being drafted as a earlier quarterback. He's going as the quarterback 9 right now. I mean, it's probably fair based on everything going on, but he's right above Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. Maybe I'd put him 10th behind Matt Ryan because of the question marks, but I mean, he could be third.
Yeah.
Also, another for this wide receiving core, just a kind of like a deeper target to kind of get is Scotty Miller has actually been getting some good praise out of camp there. I know a lot of people thought, what was it, Justin Watson, from last year, everyone thought he was going to be a third guy, but it looks like Scotty Miller might be, and you can get him for basically nothing right now. He's probably on your waiver wire. And to even think if something happened to Evans or Godwin during the season, I mean, he's somebody that could potentially, be a plug-and-play guy.
You said you were talking about dynasty leagues?
Yeah,
or just
I guess in dynasty leagues, and then I guess in redraft, he'll be a guy that's most likely just going to be on the waiver wire. So he could be a guy that potentially, like I said, if something did happen to Evans or Godwin or anyone there in the passing game, he could be somebody that could step in and be a plug-and-play guy, flex option.
One thing I want to add, if Tom Brady throws 40 touchdowns this season, he's going to win the MVP.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
at 43 years.
It could definitely could happen. Throw your bets on that. I don't even know what the odds are right now, but something I'd still just throw some money on. That's going to wrap everything up, guys. We did it. We are done with our division previews. I'm sorry this episode was so long. Like I said, it should be the last time we have a long one for a while. Next week, we got our rankings coming. We have some really big news we're going to announce as well. Please stay tuned for that. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at Dynasty Mafia _FF. That's where we're going to be breaking out some really big news, possibly coming this weekend. But happy drafting. If you have any questions, make sure to tweet at us. And make sure you're following all of us. I'm at Antonio Denisi FF. You can find Keenan at Keenan _716. You can find Eric at Eric D _FF. Again, thanks a lot for watching and listening. Make sure to catch us on YouTube so you can watch us and anywhere else that you get your podcasts. With that being said, anything else from you fellas?
Yeah, one thing I want to add, I am excited to see where Wayne Bloom drafts Tom Brady and Gronkowski this weekend. He loves his former Patriots and Patriots, so we'll be interesting. Shout out to Wayne Bloom.
Yeah, he's always a man. Shout out to Wayne Bloom that I can squeeze a little second or third round pick for one of those Patriot players. So I always like talking with him.
Ex-Patriots players.
Ex-Patriots players,
He's
too.
about to buy my Tom Brady share my Rob Gronkowski share when I start selling. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Like we said, a lot more coming next week. A lot of great news. Stay tuned. Thanks again. Mafia out.